Hey guys, Kagi here. Today we're going to look at the Squire as he is now in the pre-alpha of Dungeon Defenders 2, or as mine is aptly named, Squirey Squireton. So Squirey Squireton, the way that they did it now is you've got 4 abilities, though for each class the 4th ability is the same, it's Heal Self, and then you have your towers, which I'm calling defenses obviously, because it's a tower defense. But it's a little different from the way it was before. Now you have 2 different pools of mana. Let me show you. So you have blue mana, which is your ability mana, and then green mana, which is kind of like your build mana. So the way the game runs now is you can use a blue ability, so you can use your actual attack abilities while you're using a defense ability. So that's cool. In Dungeon Defenders 2, the way the game works is, you have your 3 abilities. You used to only have 2 for every character, now there's 3. And the 4th one is Heal Self. The way that they implement Heal Self in this game is that it doesn't cost any kind of mana. You just kind of do it. You're just basically mending your wounds, at least at this point in time. It may cost mana later. But I don't know about the other classes, but I know for sure the Squire gets his last defense at level 14, so you'll have everything in the game by level 14. Your first ability is actually from the first game, which is Sword Beam. It was kind of like you cut a laser through the air in the old games. But now with the way that they've changed the UI, you can actually aim where you're attacking. So your Sword Beam, you can aim pretty much anywhere, which is great. So as of right now, it's kind of hard to lock onto flying enemies, but you can, like, oh, there's a draken coming. I'm going to shoot my sword beam at it, which is really, really helpful for the Squire. And they've also changed, they didn't change your secondary ability, or your secondary attack. The Squire has always been to shield. Now you take less damage. I believe you could basically stand there as a wall in the first game. I haven't been knocked back yet, but you do take less damage. You would probably be able to stay as a wall as well. And your basic attack now is a 4th swing progression. And they've also, you still step forward while you attack, like Dungeon Defenders 1 and DDE, but that option was, you can actually turn that option off. We don't know if they're going to remove it for Dungeon Defenders 2 yet. The cool thing is, it's not based on which way you're facing anymore, it's based on whatever way you're walking. So now you can actually aim your attacks, you don't just randomly attack the closest enemy. So you can actually walk, you can attack in 8 different directions, which is great. Second ability is also one that the Squire originally had, it's called Provoke. Animation for it is a little different, but if anyone's in that circle around you, they're going to come after you. And I've found that it actually does work on ogres here, which is great, and pretty much any other enemy works. But the way it functions in this game is a little different than the first game, because in this game there's somewhat of an aggro system. I don't know if any of you guys have ever played Army of 2. Yeah, I'm really in the fantasy setting right now. I don't know if any of you guys have played Army of 2 in the past, or Kane and Lynch. But there was an aggro system where when one player was shooting a bigger gun, the enemies would look at him and it would allow the other player, a chance to run around. The way it works in this game is your defenses have a set number. Basically, they draw aggro based on what they are, which is really cool. So this one, like the last one, the training dummy, which is what you... The training dummy, which is what you have instead of the slice and dice tower, draws lots of attention, so all the enemies will go after that and leave other towers alone and other people, so you can use it as like a fail-safe mechanism, which is great. Now the third ability, the extra one that they've given the Squire, is basically an AoE ground pound, and any enemy that's hit by it takes earth damage, because they've added, as you can see from my weapon, I actually have an earth sword right now, but the enemies take earth damage, but anyone hit by it is also stunned. It sort of works on ogres right now. You can hit them with it and they'll be stunned, but it'll only be for like a millisecond. They'll break free really easy because they're enormous. So your blue mana, while you're in game, your blue mana constantly regenerates, but there's such an overabundance of it because number 1, it automatically regenerates, but number 2, all the enemies drop blue mana. They drop blue mana like it's candy. There's just blue mana everywhere. And then there's like a teeny itty bitty bit of green mana dropped, which is kind of annoying. Now we're going to take a look at your defenses. So I'm going to head down here to the training dummies. And your new number 1 defense, you had it in the first game, but I think it was I believe it was your 3rd defense in the original game, the Cannonball Tower. Now, unlike the original Cannonball Tower, it doesn't shoot a cannonball that kind of rolls around the floor, hits everyone, and bounces. The Cannonball Tower is just like a straight shot. It hits one target, it explodes. It's really good for base damage. Now, a cool thing that's going on in Dungeons & Defenders 2 is that you can do 1 blue mana thing, so you can use an ability while a green mana ability is going on. So like you can be building, repairing, or upgrading. And the other good thing about that is they changed it so that you don't have to stand still when you're upgrading or you're repairing. You can run wherever you want. As long as you don't do another green thing, then you're fine, which is amazing. It helps the battle. It helps you out so much more than I thought it would. Because in the old games, when you were repairing or upgrading, you had to stand still and you had to be close and you had to just concentrate on that working, so you'd have to find a way to distract all the enemies so one of you could build. But now you can just go about your business, which is great. Your second tower is the spiked wall, which was in the first game, and in Defender's Eternity. And it basically does the same thing, except now it hits people. Like, it has its own attacks. And some of your items or weapons will kind of upgrade that. Like, my sword right now, one of its abilities changes the way my towers work, which is a really neat addition. Some of the weapons or the medallions will change the way your towers work, which is awesome. But yeah, my Spike Blockade has a chance to heal itself every time I hit people, which is really, really useful. Your third one is the Ballista. And instead of 5 towers, everyone's only got 4 now, but they got an extra ability. The Ballista works pretty much the same as it always has, except that it costs a lot less. Pretty much everything costs less than it did before. But it still does shoot through enemies. That was a terrible place to put it. I apologize. Terrible, terrible placement. I'm not winning anything here. So let's place it here. And it's not going to shoot both of them. But it's much faster than it was before, too. At least base-wise. So you have that going for you. And your final tower is now the training dummy. Now, the training dummy draws insane amounts of aggro. So any enemy who sees it is going to charge right at it. And like the Slice and Dice Tower, it does spin, but you have to start it up. It doesn't do a lot of damage, and it doesn't have a lot of health. But once you get it going, it does a little bit of damage, but it makes sure all the enemies come towards it. So usually your best bet is to upgrade it as quickly as possible. Which is really helpful. I mean, it's not that it doesn't have a lot of health. It doesn't have a lot of health. But the more you upgrade it, the stronger it gets, the more health it gets. The thing is, you have to start it up by either hitting it yourself or having enemies hit it. So at the beginning, it doesn't really do a lot. It just kind of sits there. Which is admittedly pretty sad. And then the new thing, instead of just upgrading your stats like you had in the old games, what you do is they haven't added really the whole armor system yet, and they haven't even added the inventory menu, so you have to come to the Defender's Forge or the upgrade shop as it is right now to actually look at what you have equipped. But for the Squire, you have your sword and your shield. I don't know about the other characters yet because I haven't really played as any of them. I've just been playing Squireton. But you also have totems and relics, and that's pretty much all the equipment you get at this point. So you don't have to worry too much about it. But, so you have your stats from the old games. You have, your health, your damage, your physical defense, your magical defense, ability power, which is your blue abilities, defense health, defense speed, and defense power. But you don't really upgrade those. What you do instead is you change your specs. And each character has 6 specs, and the specs change your stats, but they also change the way your character plays. So right now I only have points in Riposte and Shiny Spikes, because I felt like they were the only ones that were really useful to me. I used to have points in Vengeance, but whatever. But let's go through them. So Riposte means that when you get hit, you know, when you parry and riposte in fencing, that's like your strike back. What happens is, with riposte, every point you add into it, your percentage gets higher that you'll return damage when you take it, which is great. Helps you hurt people when you like jump into a crowd, people be swinging at you and they'll start hurting themselves, which is great. You have Vengeance, which basically lets your spiked blockade do the exact same thing as riposte. Shiny Spikes gives you a % chance to stun enemies with your spiked balls, which is also very useful. So I basically put all my points into Riposte and Shiny Spikes because they're the 2 abilities I found the most useful. Fight Me Not makes towers do more damage to enemies that are targeting me. So if I were to provoke a whole bunch of enemies and I had all my towers behind me, cannonball towers and ballistas, then they would do a whole bunch more damage. But I rarely use provoke unless the situation actually calls for it. Powerful spears. So the way the ballista works now is for each enemy it hits in a line, it does less and less damage because it's piercing them, it's getting broken on the way. But powerful spears makes it so that there's a % chance that it's going to hit everyone for full damage. And shield strength increases the damage reduction of a shield. At least when you're doing this. So yeah, that's the Squire as he stands now. As of right now, your hero deck only has 3 slots, which means that you won't be able to get one of each. So we'll see who I come up with next. So from me and Squireton, hope you guys enjoyed. Bye! I'll be looking at more Dungeons & Defenders 2 stuff in the near future. Take care, guys!